Sage Wanderer here, and welcome to the sheep pen, bah, where no goats are allowed. So today we're going to continue with part 2 of this discussion about how technology has destroyed the family, and specifically how industrialization in America and in the Western world caused the family to become splintered. How the husband went to work and the wife went to work in a different place, and then the child went to school, and the house was all alone by itself all day with the family pets, and daytime burglaries started becoming a thing. Right? When nobody's home, somebody comes, pays you a visit, right? So then we invented all these security devices to protect our home when we were gone. When in reality, if we lived the way our ancestors lived, we'd most of the time never leave home, except to maybe go to the store and buy stuff. Because ultimately, in the past, the standard thing was everyone worked from home. You know, we had the recent incident here over the last few years that caused so many of you to get re in touch with your home life, right? Caused you to get readjusted to your to working at home. But that used to be the norm. It's why it felt so good. Honestly, a lot of you went to work at home and then you never wanted to go back, and a lot of you didn't go back. A lot of things that changed over that period of time as far as working from home have become normal now. But once upon a time, a man and a woman labored together. Once upon a time, a couple was a juggernaut force. Every couple was a power couple when it was done correctly. And it's what built our Western society. Our Western society is built on the bond between a man and a woman. So this is just catching you up with the first video. I've already covered this. And hats off to the ladies that are still present. Those of you that didn't get triggered by the last video and unsubscribe, your reward will be hearing now what men are required to do in answer to your submission. And just to recap, we know that submission, in the sense that Paul meant it, and in the sense that this teaching means it, refers to the act of not fighting with your husband, not working against him, not going behind his back, not manipulating and trying to control him, not trying to, just the standard stuff you have in marriages that cause contention, right? To avoid those things, to seek harmony, to see him as a leader. And that relieves you of a lot of the pressure and tension because it's kind of on him. And if he steps up as a leader and succeeds, right, then you get to share in it because you're helping him with it and you backed him on it and you didn't fight him on it. So many times a man will succeed when a woman was determined he wasn't, because he wasn't going to do what she's told him to do, and he went and did his own thing. And then when he succeeds, instead of being happy for him, it makes her mad because she didn't win. See, what we're talking about is contention, competition, argumentativeness. All this is a power struggle about who's going to be in control of the relationship. So submission really isn't kowtowing. It's just a cessation of hostilities, okay? So now we've defined that, we can move on to the other half of the scripture. So those of you ladies who got through that little thing and you're hanging in there, now here is your reward, because you're going to find out what happens next when a woman stops fighting her husband, stops contending with him. Because the next phrase is, I'm going to do the whole scripture together. Wives, submit to your husbands, and husbands, love your wife like Christ loved the church. What did Christ do for the church? I've preached about this before. That Jesus died on the cross not just for a symbolic sacrifice for the sin of many, but specifically he died so that his disciples could live. He surrendered and exchanged his life for theirs, for the purpose of making his religion go into the future, right? He was willing to lay down his life for his friends. He said this himself, no greater love has a man than to lay down his life for a friend. So Jesus offered a sacrificial love, not just to his friends, not just to his disciples, but through that act we talked about earlier of the shadow sacrifice to reconcile us with God. If you believe all of that, if you believe part of it, know this. It is very clear that Jesus had a sacrificial love that gave birth to the church. And his message was a sacrificial love message. If somebody strikes you, turn the other cheek. If someone asks you for your coat, give them their shirt too. If someone asks you to walk a mile and carry their load, walk two for them, right? That's a sacrificial love for everyone. Paul took this and he applied it to the marriage, and he compared it to the love of Christ, and it was a double message, one to married couples and one that applied to the church in general. And that love, that is what women want. You know, I don't talk about this, but I was married to one woman for 21 years. And then I played the field and went wild. I left the ministry and I did all a number of things. And if you want to go back on the timeline, back a few months, you'll see my confessions, my tear-felt confessions at that time. But I did learn some things about women, because I learned really what women want, even if most of them, some of them rather, are unable to admit this, that a woman really wants to feel loved. They want to know that the man loves them. They want that dedication to them. They want a man so into them they don't look at other women. They want a man so into them that they'll tell other women no. They'll take their hand off of him and go, leave me alone, I'm a married man. That's what a woman wants. They want loyalty. They want love, dedication. They want a sacrificial love. They want a man that will go to the door and defend the house knowing he's probably going to get killed so that they can slip out the back jack and get away. That no woman wants a man that's going to hide behind her when the bullets fly, right? They want a sacrificial love. That's one thing I learned in all those experiences and all those women I knew and all those failed attempts at love. When I got to the bottom of it, I realized I knew what a woman wanted. And in the last video, I talked about the price you pay to get that. That's what this is about. Because when you don't fight with your husband, when you don't demean your husband, when you treat your husband with respect and honor, a good man, now this is very important because some of you right now are going, my grandma did that and she got treated like this. When a good man, if you chose correctly to whom to submit to, you chose a good man with a good heart if you did. If you didn't, your picker's broken and you need to back out right now and start over. This is a crossroads moment in a relationship. The submission to the man happens, and if the next thing doesn't happen, you got a bad man and you need to run. You got a man that's got no heart. Because I don't care how tough and rugged he is. I don't care how busted up and broken he is. If a man's got a good character and a good heart, if a woman doesn't fight him, if a woman comes alongside him, takes his hand and goes, baby, it's me and you against the world, ride or die. A good man won't abuse that. And it will unlock in him a sacrificial love like you've never experienced before in your life. I have historical evidence that this is true, and that this is the way that marriages used to be, and that this is why there's laws that says a woman doesn't have to testify against her husband, because women would never, because their loyalty was so strong, because they submitted in totality to a man. And in doing that, in that lack of, when you give I'm talking about giving yourself for real to a man, not in a euphemistic way, but in a complete and total way, and trusting him with that responsibility, it will unlock in him this sacrificial love. The kind of love you hear about in movies and music and in songs. The kind of thing that Romeo and Juliet's based on, as fouled up as that was. But still, that love that women crave, that they write Lifetime movies about, that's how you get it. You find a good man and you give yourself to him. And when you do, a good man will come alive. He'll work 3 jobs just to make sure the bills are paid, right? He'll start a business so he can spend more time at home with you. Right? He'll choose a career that benefits you and him and the children and the family and the home. He won't run around with his friends. He won't go out drinking. He won't escape into drugs, because most of the time those guys that do that, because their home life is hell, because they're involved in a conflict constantly, and they'll turn to all kinds of things to escape it. What I'm talking about is the actual problem that's happening right now. And then you add this technology into it, where they've got complete privacy, and so does he. So the first time you get contention, one of the escapes many men use is the arms of another woman. And the way they find them is through their phone or their work computer. And vice versa. And let's just talk about the reality of that. That's just happening everywhere, people. It's just like the new normal. Man, it's the new normal that people get together for a short period of time. There's a whole lot of contention in the relationship. And then within 5 years, somebody cheats and then they break up. Got a friend in and out of that situation right now. Got several, honestly. It's just like an epidemic. Now, we can't undo the situation that's working against us. We can't undo that we're not together all day because we're both working. We can. It takes a lot of work. You can become an entrepreneur. You can become a homesteader. You can become a farmer, right? You can open a business and live in the business. You can run a business from home. COVID taught us this. That proved it. We can. We can. We actually can. Nobody wants to, though, if no one's submitted and no one's loving nobody back. I mean, you should get paid off, ladies, if you're submitting to a man and you're not fighting him and he's taking advantage of you and he's abusing the freedom you've given him and he's abusing the trust you've shared with him and trusted him with, and he sees it as power to use over you, and that's obvious and you can see it happening, you need to back out right then. It's a do-over. I'm sorry, you got a bad one. Start again. But if you think you got a good man, even if you got a past of this kind of contention and fighting, even if you got a past of undermining each other, even if you can actually pull this out, even if you can rebuild from an infidelity and try again. If you think you got a good man and his heart and you can't stop loving him, then try submitting to him. Try coming to him and saying, I give myself to you, and I see you as the man. I see you as the best of the best. And I know we've been through a lot, and sometimes it was hell, but God spoke to me about my attitude. And I hope by submitting to you that you will love me sacrificially. I want to be loved. I want you to bring me flowers, right? I want you to rub my back. I want you to remember our anniversary months ahead of time and plan for it. These little things that women will leave a man over because they're not getting it. I want your attention when I come home. Don't bury yourself in the phone. I don't want you to go on another 3-day fishing adventure with your friends or coon hunting in the woods all weekend again. You don't have to demand it, but you can tell them what you want. And when a woman submits, gives herself to a man, it makes a man so dang happy that if he's a bad man, he'd be like, that kind of happy. And if he's a good man, his heart will melt. And that's the kind of man that'll hold your hand as cancer takes your life and miss you so bad, he dies in his sleep because you're not around to wake him up in the morning. You want that kind of love? That's the kind of love that built the unity, that created community, that built our country and our society. I honestly feel like a lot of men are real men, but they're afraid to stand up because they know if they do, they'll be at war with their spouse and the women in their life and their friends and their whole community of these women who've been brainwashed into thinking that their road to happiness is to control, dominate, and make a man do what they say. If you do that, that man will never love you. He might say he loves you, but he'll never love you. He'll always be looking for somebody else. His eye will be on the horizon. If he gets the chance to cheat, he'll take it because he's hurt. Good man or not, you treat a man that way. This is what is going wrong in this country. Industrialization was the tool they used to create the environment that made this all seem like some kind of good idea. Feminism was in the beginning a righteous effort to deal with the bad men who were taking these women's submission and using it to dominate, control, and hurt them and subjugate them. But good men didn't do that. It wasn't even all men. It was just some men screwed it up for everybody, and feminism was born. And women always should have had a vote. It was wrong to take that away from them. Some of my MGTOW guys are going, the world went screwy when women got the vote. No, what happened is that was just a tool the devil used to create this enmity and struggle and strife in the family. All of these feminist issues were created through this system of technological advancement and transformation of our societal norms and creation of a new environment, the nuclear family, which was kind of dysfunctional from the beginning. And by the time you get to the 80s, it doesn't even exist anymore, really. And the era of the single mom. Not blaming single women. I'm just saying that two heads are better than one. It takes a masculine and a feminine, and whatever gender you are, I'll play that gender politics game with you and say that's fine by me, but you'll have to admit that it's a positive and a negative. It's a dark and a light, just like, we have the North Pole and the South Pole, right? It takes those two sides. Harsh disciplinarian, unbending rule maker, tender loving care. Kiss your boo-boos. Hold your hand and pat your head with a damp cloth when you're sick. And I'm sorry, it's very, very hard for one person to be both of those things without driving the kid crazy, because it don't make sense that the two-parent home works. Society proved it, because we've never been in a worse place, in a worse situation than we are right now. And our Western society is just tattered and falling apart. We're about to bust into a great conflagration, a great war of unparalleled dimension. Because there's no unity in our community. Because there's no unity in our home. Paul, I disagree with a lot. But I can find anecdotal, historical evidence. I can find mathematical and statistical evidence to support everything I'm saying, and everything he said was right. That's a magic formula. That's a key to happiness. Ladies, it's also the best man-detecting method you can get in the world. If you submit to a man and he takes advantage of you right away, you know you got a bad one. Bounce! Time to run. Put on your sneakers and get. Next. Thank you for playing. Makes it easy, actually. It's really a good way to tell a good man from a bad man. If you just give him the reins, right? And he starts drinking out of a fifth of Jack Daniels, whipping the horses to death and going, get in the back of the car, bitch. I'm sorry, I cuss sometimes. Get in the back of the car, right? If he treats you like that, thank you for playing. Thank you for showing who you are right up front. Chances are, if you got a good man, you're about to find love like you never did before. If you can do that one thing, if you can just say, you know what, I'm not going to fight him. I'm going to express my opinion once in a very clear way and communicate openly with him about what I want, what I feel, and what I need. I'm not going to nag him over it. I'm not going to demand him. I'm not going to try to manipulate him. I'm not going to try to tell him, not tell him. I'm just going to come straight out because you're submitted. You're just asking. And I'm telling you, if you submit, the man's going to love you so much that you'll present that list to him and he'll hand you a box and he's already got it. He's like, oh, here's everything on that list. Already did it. It's way ahead of you, baby. I love you. I know what you want. In the past 10 years, since I kind of uncovered what I believe to be the hinge pin to repair all of this. Because see, in the next video, in the third installment, I'm not going to go there today, but in the third installment, man, I'm going to tell you what you can do to also detect a woman who will, at some point, when they trust you and have measured you, will submit to you, and how to tell a woman that never, ever will. No matter what you do, you will always end up on the bottom of that pile. And you can tell the difference just as quick and at the beginning of it, just like I told these ladies, that if you submit to a man and he don't do right, if you do this one thing that I will reveal in the next video, consistently every single time, if she don't bounce and run away, if she sticks, if she stays, then you know you got a good one. And the rest is going to be magic. Now, I've been unable to make this work. I've failed many times. I've had women submit for a time, and then I felt that love I talk about. It's supernatural. I'm telling you, it's supernatural. When that woman makes that first statement of submission, that says, I want you to lead me. If we disagree, I'll tell you how I feel, but in the end, the decision is yours. And let the chips fall where they may. When a man hears that, when she says it with sincerity, I'd been in that seat a couple of times, maybe 3 times in my life. And a love inside of me exploded for that woman. The immediate feeling felt to me like, man, nobody better ever hurt her or say one bad thing about her, or I'll pound him in the ground like a tent peg. That's my woman. It was just an immediate, it's the flood of a kind of love I never felt before. It was almost violent. It was so strong. It didn't last, because when the contention comes in, the love goes out. Let me say that, ladies, when you contend with your husband, the love goes bye-bye. Every time you start an argument, or every time you enforce your will, every time you demand something of him, every time you tell him how the cow ate the cabbage, as we used to say down in Texas, every time that happens, a little chunk of his heart goes out the window. Till someday you're with a man that could give a rip about you. He's already moved on to something else. I've had that experience. The last couple of times with me, the whole time going, this fighting, this contention, the way you come after me, right? This demand that I do things your way or else is killing our love. You understand that? It's killing our love. They didn't listen to me, and now I don't love them anymore. Having said that, I got something to tell you on the bright side. My sister, you met her on the channel. Her life's a romantic wreck like mine's been. But she's been listening to me, because before I started preaching this to you, I started preaching it to myself and to her and to my girlfriends that would come into my life. I first started preaching this to my first / third wife, right? The woman I married twice. Couldn't get her to play. The last thing I said was, look, if you can't submit to my leadership, I got to go. That I won't be a passenger on a ship where you're the captain. Either I'm the captain or I'm out. And so, yeah. But my sister, she has the power to submit to a man, right? I'm trying to get a woman to submit to me. And I figured that out. And I'm going to share with you how that works. And I've seen it at play, and I have, like I said, statistical, anecdotal, and historical evidence that this is a fact. And that'll be in the next video. But my sister recently tried this. I don't want to say too much about them because they're private and they live around here, and people kind of know who I am around here. If you went asking around, you might find me. Probably not at home, but somewhere. But my sister, I set her up with a friend of mine. Like, I determined that this guy was a good guy for her by being his friend, by watching him with his family, his children, his grown children. He's a widower, right? This guy's a widower. He had one lifelong relationship, or he had 2, but one that was really the long one, and she died on him. And he had just gotten over that. He was just starting to think about dating. And I was his friend, and I'd vetted him ahead of time. And I just kind of put them together. It wasn't hard. I was like, hey, have you met my sister? Remember my sister I was telling you about? And I'd laid all the groundwork on both sides, and they both kind of knew it was a setup. And my sister came in with that attitude. This was a good man and a strong man, you know, U.S. Navy retired, you know, on a nuclear submarine underwater for decades, right? This guy lived on a submarine most of his career. Was in the submarine, in the Navy. But she did that submission thing. And I ain't never seen a man love a woman like this guy loved my sister. Like, my sister hit the jackpot of love with this guy. Like, this guy will pound you into the ground if you better not touch my sister. You better not disrespect her, my sister. You better not mouth off to her. And my sister's the kind of woman that can take care of herself, but she don't have to. She ain't paid a bill once since he's paid for everything. She don't have to work because he's got it all covered. And all they do is live a life of domestic bliss in retirement together. To me, it's proof. Because my sister knew, and she struggled with it a couple times. She's like, on the phone with little brother, It's hard. It's hard. I'm like, hang in there. You know it works. It works if you work it. Hang in there. Hang in there. But you got past some of those triggers. You got to get past those triggers. Those emotions are demonically inspired, and they're preventing you from doing the thing that will really give you the happiness that you desire. Because you can't ever bully a man into doing what you want him to do. You really can't ever trick him into. And if you do, he's going to resent you. And most of the time you fail at it. The real way to get what you want is to give up control of your life to somebody that you can trust, and then tell them, please help me. This is like what I would like. I want these things. And if you don't fight him, and you're a partner to him, and you're helping him, and you're there, Johnny on the spot, you're concerned with his life, his career, his thoughts, his emotions, and then you come to him like that, he won't even tell you how he got it. It's like, if it's a fur coat, it's just going to materialize in your closet with a bow on it. I don't care if he works down at the mill. That once you, I'm telling you, there's a kind of love that you women know exist. Men, there's a kind of devotion and loyalty in a woman that you have, many of you think can't ever be a thing again. And you wonder whether it ever was a thing. I mean, some men out there are so scarred over the combat. I mean, they don't call it the battle of the sexes for nothing. It's been a battle, and people are scarred, and families have been destroyed. Don't you think it's time for a truce, ladies and gentlemen? Don't you think it's time for a relationship truce? Don't you think it's time to go back in time to a time when it worked and figure out what worked and why? It's what I did. I don't tackle a problem by sitting around worrying about it or asking Dr. Phil, right? I hit the books, buddy, just like I was taught all those years and learned how to be a preacher. Learn how to be a musician. Go back to the basics. I went back to history, to a time when I believe the bond between men and women were so strong the devil himself couldn't shake them loose. There's no coincidence that this lines up with the book of Genesis, that the devil chose to approach Eve and drive a wedge between the man and the woman and use that to drag the man out of God's will. That's what he's been doing ever since. Can't you see? That's his goal. Can't you see how this modern system is facilitating that goal? Can't you see the destruction that the loss of family unity has caused in the lives of the children, generationally deep now since the 1960s? That feminists, the thing you were trying to fix, was messed up, but it was way better, even messed up, than what we got these days. Most people were happier in those days than we are today. You'd think we'd be the happy ones with refrigerated food and microwave dinners and, movie theaters basically in our houses these days with giant screen TVs and the knowledge of the world pumped to us. You'd think we'd be the happy ones. We've never been sadder as a humanity, as a race. Our society has never been sadder and sicker than it is right now. I went back and looked, and I found the secret. And Paul knew it all along. People will say, well, you can't reject Paul out of one side of your mouth and accept him out of the other. Sure I can. I just did. Want to see me do it again? That's what it means to have discernment. That's what it means to weigh the scriptures and to test the prophets. So I hope that you benefit from this. I hope that at least this plants a seed of thought. I hope next time, men, when you're dealing with a woman that has been submissive to you and you have the opportunity to do something great for her, I hope this message pops up in your head and you go, I do love her that much and I need to show it. I'm not going to come home and say, hey, baby, thanks the other day for helping me. I'm going to come home with a dozen roses and go, baby, when you mailed off those boxes, you saved my bacon. Thank you. Women, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that make you do a happy dance? I don't just preach love of your neighbor. I don't just preach love of God. I don't just preach love to the community. I preach love to one another and especially love in the relationship. If you've benefited from this, please support this channel. If this has touched your heart in any way, I can't keep doing this kind of deep level thinking if I'm digging a ditch. It's either preach or dig a ditch. That's what that shovel means. So keep me from digging a ditch. Contribute to PayPal. Leave a There's a link in the description to PayPal. You can join Patreon if you look for the picture of Radar, my dog, and then look up in the corner on my homepage. You'll find that. I need your help to continue helping families. Thank you for those that have done that. There's updates coming. And I'll leave you with this final powerful prayer. Lord, surround these people, their marriages and their relationships and their family in your ring of fire and hedge of thorns of protection. Send mighty angels, O Lord, of sufficient rank, authority, and number to drive the enemy from their midst, O Lord. Heal their mind, heal their thinking, heal their family, heal their relationships, O Lord, and then cover them in your peace and envelop them in your peace. And Holy Spirit, rest upon them right now in Jesus' name. Amen. We'll see you next time on the Sheep Pen.